Okay. We'll go ahead and leave the world behind and fill into our spaces and collect our minds. Let's take refuge together. Om Namo Namo Buddhaya, Buddhaya Dhamaya Sanghaya. Om Namo Namo Sanghaya. Om Sanghaya. Om Namo Namo Di San Shi Do Je Chang Fu 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 Namo Di San Shi Do Je Chang Fu. And to wipe away any subtle obscurations of the mind, we will chant Vajrasattva's 100-syllable bright mantra one time. Om Banzar Sadhu Samaya Manubanaya Banzar Sadhu de la Badicha Jija me bawa Sudokayo me bawa Subokayo me bawa Anuredo me bawa Sawasidi me jayacha Sawagama Zuza me Zidong Shiryang Guru Hum Ha 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 ho Bhagawana Sawadata Dada Banzar Ma me Muza Baza Bawa Mahasamaya Sadhua Om He Dorje Shengba La Chia Che. An unsurpassed, more penetrating and perfect dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see, to listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. You may make your 8 offerings. So as you came in the room today, I asked you to sit in a new place. And I'm curious what that felt like. What did you think? Spatially, what was the difference? Did you lose comfort? Were you slightly agitated? Did you feel more exposed than usual just by changing your seat? Or it's so funny, we identify with where we sit as ourselves. Yes?
I moved a little bit because I wanted to be up front, because if I was in the back, I wouldn't focus as much. So like, I guess I'm like, I know what I'm comfortable with, so I'll just slightly move a little bit so it'll look like I did. It's still comfortable.
And that was also a smart decision because it's good to listen to the Dharma. And if you feel that you might get distracted and you want to prevent that, then you would make a decision to support what you do want, which is to listen. So you can do both at the same time, which is cool.
Oh, Lauren just unmuted.
Yeah, please.
Lauren, did you have something you wanted to share?
I was thinking, I'm taking somebody else's spot. I better watch when she comes in to let her know that I didn't do this on purpose.
So starting to get a little defensive, needing to protect and
Feeling that I've taken something from somebody else.
wow,
It was
interesting.
her place.
Complete neutrality.
I usually sit where Giovanni is, and I've done that for years. Ever since we moved the Dharma Hall in here, that's kind of where I land. And when you asked us to sit in a different spot, my first reaction was, oh, I can't sit in the back because I won't be able to hear. And I remembered I've got hearing aids, and I was overwhelmed with gratitude. I can sit anywhere. I can sit on the staircase and still hear. So thank you.
It's almost like someone opening a door for us that we didn't even know existed, even though it was already available, and so now you can experience your life in a completely new way because you were doing something just purely out of habit because you couldn't hear. That was a true thing that you were working with in your life. And so in order to hear the Dharma, you had to sit up there. But once you got new ears, that no longer applied. And so how many times do we get maybe new ears that hear the Dharma, and we're doing something that no longer applies? I don't know. So I wanted to start off Dharma this way because I had like a glimmer this week, and it was in a conversation with Busita. And I was sitting there and she was asking me, what are the things you don't want to do? I was like, oh, I really don't want to say that. I don't want to tell you what I don't want to do. Like that was about it, because it would have said something about me. But it was so simple. And I said both things. And she had this response that blew my mind. And it wasn't like Dharma, even though it is Dharma. It wasn't like, I'm going to read you from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 49, and I'm going to quote you this verbatim and give it to you like in this life situation. It was about, because sometimes I'll put things off, I'll procrastinate, I won't do the things that I don't want to do. I will do the things that I do want to do, but I won't do the things that I don't want to do. That's just how we are. And she said, do you want to say it? Do you remember it exactly?
Yeah, I said the reason why I do things so fast is because once I do it, I never have to think about it again. That's pretty much it.
And for my mind at that time, it was the perfect thing Because I'll keep something on my to-do list, not literally like a week, for months. For months, and I'll just keep it there, holding it. I'm holding it. But when she said that, it uprooted something in me. And then not only did it uproot something in me, it illuminated a truth to me. If I wasn't willing to be honest in that moment, truly honest, then I would have never have received the wisdom that I needed to dissolve my suffering. So if we are searching for wisdom, but we're unwilling to be honest, the universe will not give us the wisdom because we have to actually be honest. If Busita would have asked me, what do you not want to do? And I would have lied, I wouldn't have gotten a response that would have actually released me from suffering. And so that's why humility is the way to learn. It is really the way to learn, not because it's the way to learn because there's this aversion about self, this aversion about ego and identity changing a seat, changing clothing, changing the way that we appear, all of those kinds of things. Changing the way I appear to my Dharma friends as a good practitioner, you know? And if I was holding up that identity so strongly, then I wouldn't have been able to have truly gotten the wisdom that I needed to be able to change my ways. So if you're seeking wisdom and something's not working, are you being honest? I was reading, I think, advice on how to read the Dharma. And it was like, read the Dharma as if the Buddha were speaking to you. That's a whole different approach than reading the Dharma intellectually. Like for me to get an answer right or to do something. But when it's like, I'm going to read the Dharma as if the Buddha is speaking to me, it surpasses the intellect and it goes to a heart space. And so if we're reading with this mind to know that I already know or to add to what I know, we're reading actually with pride. Being proud about what we have or what we want. And we're actually not receiving the Dharma. I was on a walk the other day, and sometimes I'll go down this road. And I just thought, maybe I could try to make a metaphor out of anything that I saw. I like to write, so I practice when I'm walking. It makes sense to me. And I was like, mailbox. I just picked a mailbox and I started thinking, okay, so a mailbox, what does that do? You get a message delivered. This is my analytical mind going berserk, right? But it already does it anyway, so I have to direct it into a specific direction. I have to work with it. That's why I like to write songs and do things like that, because I'm trying to navigate it. And so I thought about a mailbox. And a mailbox is where someone delivers something to you. But that's only halfway. I don't actually receive the letter until I go to the mailbox, open up the letter, and read it. So something can be delivered, but is it being received? And are we doing that with our Dharma? Our Dharma is delivered. The package has arrived. But is it being received? And that's where humility comes in. If I go in with a mind that is fearful of what other people will think of me, or if I am coming in protecting this identity, I'm not going to receive the Dharma even though it's been delivered. The Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas have done their job perfectly. 100%. They have done their job perfectly. It has been delivered. We have to be able to receive it. So that means we got to get up off our couch from eating our potato chips, turn off the TV, walk outside, even if it's like 20 degrees, put on a coat. We got to do all these things. We gotta put on our coat, put on our shoes, see if there's any cars coming and go outside and get it. And then you gotta go walk back inside. And maybe when you walk back inside, oh, you forgot, like, oh, I gotta start doing laundry. So then you start doing laundry. Well, you forgot to open your letter and you forgot to receive it. And so that's what humility does, is it allows us to receive the Dharma in a way that we never knew that we could. But one thing is true, it has been delivered. So I thought I would actually read to you a good amount of the notes that we have from a preliminary translation from His Holiness Dorje Chang Buddha III. And we'll work our way from there. Okay. And also, before we go into it, what happened is I was coming home from the studio after recording our new song, Mind Behind the Mind, which is actually a song about pride, the second arrow. And I sat down on the steps outside and I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to read the Bible. And so I just sat down outside and I opened the Bible. And I just didn't know what I was reading. So I just opened it, And actually what came up was, is it Job or Job? Job, that's what I thought. Thank you, everybody. And it was about basically fearing the Lord is wisdom. Once you have wisdom, you have understanding. Once you have understanding, you can change. And that just struck such a deep chord in me because we've been working on that. We've been saying, Venerable would say, don't force yourself to change your mind. And then outer conditions will change. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, wisdom, understanding, changing. This is how I change my life, is by seeking wisdom and seeking the wisdom that I need and truly that I need. And how many times have I tried to change myself without the proper wisdom to produce correct understanding? Basically saying my actions are proof of understanding of wisdom. So if we're not having the actions that we want, we don't have the wisdom that we need for understanding. So instead of trying to change our habits, we need wisdom. And that's why we read the teachings of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, or any holy scripture that you find in that moment is beneficial to you. And so I'm like, okay, wisdom, it made me think about, I think I just really sat with it for a moment. And I feel like I can just sit with it now because it was the right thing at the right time. So now I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to make up anything. This verse from the Bible reminded me of a text that Soma sent us maybe 2 weeks ago. And it was from, I believe, Ajahn Chah. And I'm going to read this to you because it was very potent to me at the time, and it still is. And he said, I practiced Dhamma without knowing a great deal. I simply knew that the path to liberation began with virtue, sila, which is our moral ethical conduct. Virtue is beautiful beginning of the path. The deep peace of samadhi is the beautiful middle. Wisdom, prajna, panya, is the beautiful end. Although they can be separated as 3 distinct aspects of the training, as we look into them more and more deeply, these 3 qualities converge as one. According to the theory, virtue comes first, then samadhi, and then wisdom. But when I examined it, I found that wisdom is the foundation stone for every other aspect of practice. Once there is clear comprehension, understanding, of the way things truly are, our old perceptions are uprooted, and our conceptual knowledge transforms into wisdom. That is how virtue, samadhi, and wisdom merge and function as one. So when I read this, I was like, oh, I love it. We start with wisdom. And in a way, that's true. And then also a way we start with being a good person. But we are a good person because there's wisdom to that. Like the little basic things that you started as a kid, like if I open the door for them, like my heart will be happy. You know, or I'm going to treat others how I want to be treated. We believe, honestly, we believe in the nature of cause and effect inherently, maybe without even knowing it. Like we're so aware of karma when it's not wrapped in the word karma. When it's not wrapped in like the Buddhist, like it's not even Buddhist, it's a natural law of causality, cause and effect. We just already get that. We get that because that's innate wisdom. Wisdom's already there. And then we grow it. And how we grow it is by our virtue. And our virtue is our understanding. It's the comprehension of the wisdom, which leads to the change of life, which leads to becoming a bodhisattva or a Buddha. That changes those new habits, those new ways of being. Because we've sought wisdom and we've shown that we understand by our actions. So if we want to change, we have to seek wisdom. And if we want to seek wisdom, we have to be humble. And so I was sitting with humility because I don't really know how to always be humble. I'm learning how to be humble. It's like you have to learn how to be humble, and it takes humility to learn the dharma. So you have to. And I was sitting there, I was like, what is the posture of humility? And it's like, don't know. Don't know. And what loves to know, like Ajahn Chah said, is our conceptual knowledge. We are getting rid of our perceptions and we are uprooting our conceptual knowledge. That's the mind that knows. And so that's why I love learning how to play the guitar. And it takes time and it takes skill, but once you start learning this skill, then you don't have to be like, I'm going to sit down and write a song and it's going to be exactly about this. Like you plan it out. You're not planning it out. Once you learn a skill, you become available. And then whatever is there will come through you. And you didn't know that was going to happen because through this development of skill, this development of concentration, now the unknown can become available because we've trained our conceptual thinking mind. So we just recently discussed this in Dharma study, and it is the hindrance of the known. So we're going to listen to what these notes have to say and listen with a mind that says, I don't know. And as if the Buddha was speaking to you. And when a thought comes up like, oh, I got it, drop that. Stay with this just for like 5 concentrated minutes. I know it's exciting. We get really excited. We have realizations and insights and want to share it. I experience that all the time. Like run down, hey, guess what? Not like, I saw the Kendoras, or something. I didn't actually see them. But, just getting excited about the things that are unfolding in our everyday lives. because my mind is running. So Buddha Master begins with talking about how bodhisattvas use prajna to observe the two truths, the absolute and the mundane. They know that all conditioned phenomena are like illusions, and they realize that there is nothing to attain from all unconditioned phenomena. They are not attached to the two extremes of emptiness and existence. That is, they do not settle upon either emptiness or existence, the two extremes. They stay in the perfect middle way. There is also nothing to attain in the middle way. Thus, delusion does not hinder their minds, and states do not hinder their wisdom. Their minds have no hindrance. So there's two different hindrances he speaks of. Gua is the hindrance of being worried or anxious, and the second is the hindrance I, which means obstructive karma that blocks one. Hence, with such obstruction, one's path is obstructed and one cannot traverse it. So when we rely on prajna fully, we have neither of these. What is the second one? AI. So I'm kind of
Could
leading you
repeat
in.
the first one for us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Gua means to be worried or anxious. And I'd like to lead into both of these because I think it's important as to how these hindrances are realized as being empty. He says, bodhisattvas rely on prajna paramita, thus their minds naturally have no hindrance. So they're not relying on their conceptual mind. This is by relying on the absolute truth of the three kinds of prajna, bodhisattvas naturally awaken to, realize, and abide in the state of emptiness, that is the intrinsic nature of all phenomena, attaining nothing whatsoever. They realize and enter the state of emptiness, yet there is nothing to attain in the state of emptiness. Hence, there is not one phenomena that can bind them. Not one phenomena can fetter them. They have nothing to attain. What else can there be? There is nothing. They themselves are empty. External objects are empty. Phenomena are empty. At all places and all times, living beings live with worries and obstructions. Gua is an afflictive hindrance that arises based on self-attachment. I would say I is the hindrance of the known that arises based on attached phenomena. Hindrances arise from the two attachments, attachment to self and attachment to phenomena. When one's mind has hindrances, one will cycle through birth and death in samsara, forever experiencing all kinds of afflictions and sufferings. Right at this time, you should immediately reflect upon whether your mind has hindrances. If your mind has hindrances, from where do those hindrances arise? So think about all the things that make you worried or anxious. Something that hasn't even happened yet. Holding this reality in your mind, your conceptual thinking as a truth. Ask yourself, is that true? Is this reality I'm holding on to as true? When the mind is going and it's creating worry and anxiousness, it's because you're agreeing with what it's saying. And you're basically saying, I know this to be true, when it's not. The knowing mind doesn't even know. It thinks that it knows. So it creates all these hindrances like worry and anxiousness and fear. But it doesn't know. At all places and times, living beings live with worries and obstructions. That is, all of the ordinary disciples among you, and there are ordinary disciples among you here, are currently living with obstructions. They all have kinds of affliction and live with all kinds of obstructions and worries. And then he goes on to say, Gua is an afflictive hindrance that arises based on self-attachment. Gua is to have something pulling or hanging in the mind. That is, to be worried or anxious. It is an afflictive hindrance that arises based on attachment to self. Afflictions that arise, unhappiness in the mind, and so on are called afflictive hindrances. They arise based on attachment to self. For example, you think, this thing is mine, or only I can handle such a matter, or this matter is important to me and should be prioritized as being important, or my interests were harmed by others, or Brian's example, my interests will harm others if I'm sitting in their chair, or my things were seized by others, someone sitting in my chair. Or everything that I do is undermined by others. And that is not right. Or only I can handle everything. These are some manifestations of self-attachment. Whenever there is movement of mind, consciousness, there is self-attachment. And one constantly acts for oneself. I love this little paragraph so much because he gives so many examples as to how we speak to ourselves about trying to maintain our self-attachment. Yesterday, Soma gave a retreat in Black Mountain, and I loved it. It was very good. We sat in a circle, we got to play music, and we got to listen about the dharma of cultivation. And the social sangha is fantastic. Like, their energy was so beautiful to me. So just being in their presence was very heartwarming. And so as the retreat goes on, Soma's leading us and we are holding noble silence the whole time. So there's no like random responses to something that we think is insightful. Or like we're not sharing our realization to some of the dharma that's been shared. We're maintaining this noble silence. And that's really helpful for me because I love to share. I'm kind of like venerable. I want to share when something happens. But I couldn't. I remember Soma was talking about her sister-in-law. Who is it? Sister-in-law? Sister-in-law creates words out of two things. So a disaster and catastrophe. And I'm like, oh, that's good, just thinking. And then her talk goes on by a little bit. And then she says greed, anger, and permanence, but she kind of stumbles over like greed and anger just slightly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, grangerance. That's a word with three. Greed, anger, and impermanence. Grangerance, yeah, that's the monster of samsara. I felt so proud. I didn't say it. I couldn't say it. We were in noble silence, but dang, I wanted to say it so bad. Because I was like, that is good. People need that. They need it. This will save them. You know what I mean? But the fact that I couldn't think about, I'm just being for real with y'all, so I don't know. But the fact that I couldn't say it allowed me to watch this whole process, this internal process with myself. I'm like, I really was uncomfortable with not being able to share that. Because why? I'm a writer and I'm a singer and I come up with things. Yikes. You know what I mean? I like when things sound good. And so I really had to sit with that. It was uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me not to share. Sometimes it's the opposite. People don't like sharing. So it's uncomfortable for when they share. Me, I'm like, it's uncomfortable when I can't share. So we got into this engaged activity at the end of the retreat where we could finally speak. And the first one was good. It didn't impact me as greatly because we mostly just looked in each other's eyes. And I was like, I'm up for this challenge. Let's stare at each other's face for 10 minutes. You know, and I think the other guy was feeling a little uncomfortable, but I was like, it was really funny. But it was so good actually, because without speaking, I could really feel him and feel like where his heart was in his state of mind. And it actually illuminated more than probably a conversation would have, because you became exposed. You knew that you couldn't hide. You can't hide when you sit with someone in silence and you're just looking at each other, not trying to fabricate anything, not trying to fix anything or solve anything with your words. That's that knowing mind that is acting out of not knowing. The knowing mind already doesn't know. So if we just say we don't know, that's more honest, that's more truthful, and that's actually our gateway to the dharma. The knowing mind is convincing you that it knows, but that's a lie. That's taking the unessential as the essential, the tail as the head, the upside down as the upright. So the next engagement was, another one. I just, one of the women running the retreat came up and sat in front of me, and I was ready there to stare into her eyes. She would not look at me. And before Soma rang the bell, she was giving a little teaching, kind of like a transitional teaching from our last activity into our new activity, kind of saying maybe some of the things that she noticed or what we need to work on. And she said that one of the things that she said a lot in the retreat, and what she says a lot that helps me, is if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you always got. And she kind of illuminated that during this transition part before we rung into our next activity. And she said, reverse it. Do it differently. And I was hearing her say that as I'm looking at this woman. She won't look at me. I'm like, okay. I grab my little black book and I act like I'm an introvert. And I just start like looking down, rubbing my book, not talking. I'm really experiencing this new experience because I always feel like I have to be an initiator, one that always starts. I can be the confident one. I can be the one that takes charge. Well, that's suffering for me too. I don't have to do that at all. So I just sat there and I actually liked it. And I talked for 10 minutes and I shared with her my plan of what I was going to work on the next 4 weeks, which is funny because my plan ended up changing after this activity was done. So I didn't even really know. I didn't get what I needed to get until the retreat was finished, But it was right after right after I knew what I was going to work on for these next 4 weeks, because you were supposed to share your plan for the next 4 weeks from what you learned from the retreat, because this activity was at the very end. And I shared what I thought I was going to work on. And to a certain extent, that's true. But then once she started talking, we couldn't talk at the same time. Only I could talk for 10 minutes, nothing from her. When I talked, she would smile, she would like nod and like agreement or laugh. But when she started talking, I was like, you know what? I'm going stone cold. No, I'm not. I didn't literally go stone cold, but I went unresponsive almost to every single thing that she said. Because I noticed even a head nod, even a smile or a laugh is communication. It's me agreeing, me expressing. And I wanted to see, can I not do that? And I could. I just needed to be given the opportunity to see myself in a new way. Yes, ma'am.
Didn't that kind of hurt her feelings?
No, it was part of the activity to not speak.
Right, but your unresponsiveness when she had been responsive when you were speaking.
That's not what my practice was.
That's why I was listening.
And that's also attachment to self. This matter is important to me, or my interests were something about that's self-attachment. My directive was given by Soma to fully listen. This is what the activity was. Can we listen? And could I say back every single thing that she said to me because I was listening so well? So this was part of the activity. I think what you're saying is, I understand what you're saying, but we were given, yes, you have something to say?
I think that's the whole point.
Hmm.
That we are socialized to engage in a certain way, to communicate in a certain way. And so we expect, and that says, oh, you really do listen to me, and you are listening to me. But maybe I'm not really listening to you. Yeah, oh, wow. But what if we didn't do that? What if we just learn to be present? Because, like Kedara said, when I'm nodding and smiling, I'm communicating. What if we just, and not like stare you down, but just to be present with that person? And it was, I'm sorry, but from an observer standpoint, it was interesting to watch people because their go-to place is to do what we've always done, which is acknowledging, but just to be present. I can be here with Jamie and sit with him and listen without, or nodding, or, I'm just listening. I'm here with you is what my body is saying. And it was, I so appreciate that I'm getting feedback now about these experiences, because the whole idea of cultivation, which was the theme of this, was to cultivate, to plant the seed and nurture it. And so it's wonderful when people really take on, it's not an easy thing to do, to change our habitual tendencies. But to just hone in and say, what if I tried something different? What if I presented differently? What if I listened differently? What if I listened? So yes, that's what we're taught to do. And that's what we're also taught to learn, that when someone acknowledges they're listening. But you know what? I wonder what I'm gonna have for dinner tonight. And so I'm not really there, but I'm sounding, looking like I am. So are you really? Is the question.
So did you provide feedback on what you heard?
Some people want to share. Do you want me to finish my experience, or?
That's what I was going to say, because I think what Michelle pointed to is when we have no facial responses or leaning in or smiling, what is happening in that one? And that was her curiosity. Is my curiosity is also, what did you take away from that? Did you feel like she was hurt?
The intention of the activity was to not speak when they were speaking. And so I was like, not speak. Okay, that's communicating. So when I was going to make a facial expression, I said, that's communicating. So I caught myself in my own place, and I wanted to work with that, And what I noticed is as she went, she was so honest in the beginning and she sat over like this. She goes, I'm not good at this. And I was like, normally I'd been like, cool, but I couldn't say anything. And she was able to completely unfold, unwind, and speak exactly what was on her mind because I had nothing to say about it. I didn't interject my feelings, my hopes, my beliefs, my desire for her to be okay. And what I noticed is she became more confident and confident by the minute. And she can now finally look at me. Before, when I started looking at her, she couldn't look at me. And so to be able to take that place for someone, the knowing mind doesn't like it. The knowing mind is greedy. It wants to be heard. It wants to be seen. Think, samsara is a bunch of knowing minds that don't know, who are greedy and want to be seen and heard. Someone says this, then that person says that, this person says that, that person. No one got anything good. And basically that you just collected a lot of karma and wasted your time. And so as I was sitting there, everything that she said resonated with me so deeply, but I got to experience the fact that it resonated with me so deeply because I didn't respond to every bit of it. And then I realized she is my mirror. But she's only my mirror because I'm giving that to her. So you can't be my mirror if I won't let you be it. You can only be my mirror if I say, be my mirror. And then I take the place of just being here, of being still. So when you give someone something, you're actually receiving, and that's the emptiness of no giver, no receiver, no gift. And you can experience emptiness in a certain way when you listen deeply, because you are telling your don't know mind, sit down, because you have no idea what they're going to say. And then you think about Avalokiteshvara, who hears the cries of the world, and her cultivation was ear sense based, listening deeply. Listening is a different mode than speaking or thinking. Listening is a kind of receiving. Speaking and thinking is, listening is, it's a collection of your 6 sense bases. It was a beautiful experience. And I was like, that's what I want to work on for these 4 weeks. Wait, even after someone pauses, wait 3 more pauses before you say anything. Soma called it the aloha spirit. And it's where you give enough room when driving so someone has the chance to merge in or change lanes. Are we doing that with our minds and with our speech and our conversations? Are we doing aloha spirit? Are we just, like kind of in a way we are. Because it's that knowing mind saying, I know what you're experiencing. I know what I've been through. I is the hindrance of the known that arises based on attachment to phenomena. The hindrance of the known is very formidable. It can bind everything. It can totally mislead one in what to pursue for one's entire life. It can cause one to go downhill throughout one's whole life. If one does not have a very good foundation with respect to affinity with the Dharma, if one's causes and conditions regarding Dharma matters do not come together well, the hindrance of the known will mature and will murder you. What is called hindrance of the known arises based on attachment to phenomena. It is closely related to one's own cultivation. Disciples whose continual practice is good will naturally break away from the hindrances of the known. The hindrance of the known is very formidable. Common people, even great scholars and great experts of religion, are easily duped by the hindrance of the known. I will now briefly discuss the hindrance of the known. What is called the known refers to all knowledge that is known from the past. One regards all of that knowledge as one's final conclusions on the truth. One uses these so-called final conclusions on the truth as a weapon of protection to resist all contradictory knowledge from outside sources. In other words, such people take what they have learned, seen, and heard, what has been concluded from discussions among their family members, and what they have gained from reading books as the truth. Doing so tends to form the hindrance of the known. They tightly hold on to that so-called truth from the past, never letting go of it. They think that it is the absolutely correct standard, using it to analyze all things and knowledge in the external world. They ask whether such things and knowledge comport with the truth they have derived from discussions, seeing, learning, and hearing. They will always oppose and refute to accept anything that does not comport with the knowledge they currently have. Thus, they regard the principles and reasoning that they already know as the correct guidance. Actually, the knowledge that they have has become their own obstacle. It has become the hindrance of the known. He says, there are disciples among us there who have, in fact, committed the mistake of being hindered by the known. They have committed the mistake of being hindered by the known that I just spoke about. You should immediately improve and correct yourselves. If you still do not correct yourself, it will be impossible for you to repent and be saved. You will spend this entire lifetime as a human together with your hindrance of the known, walking a side path, a wrong path. You will take that hindrance with you into samsara, where you will painfully cycle. In addition, I tell all of you once again, you should listen to the teachings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Do not listen to the talks and lectures of ordinary people. Listening to the teachings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will enable you to realize liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Listening to the talks of ordinary people will cause you to follow those ordinary people. This is for sure. Not having the hindrance of the known means not using as a weapon the knowledge that you previously learned to build a defensive wall to ward off and prevent the entry of new knowledge. The contrary is called the hindrance of the known. That is, all the knowledge that you previously learned has become your own obstacle. You even use it as a weapon. That is what is meant by the hindrance of the known. I will give an example to you disciples. Let's say you regard the knowledge that you have already acquired as truth, and the knowledge you have not acquired as untruth. Such reasoning will not work because there is so much knowledge that you have not acquired. If you regard the knowledge that you have not acquired as illegitimate or evil, then just because of this, it will be impossible for you to acquire real knowledge, impossible for you to acquire real wisdom. That goes back to Seeking wisdom, we must say, I do not know. We must be humble. Because there is a knowing of something, but of everything, there's not. And so Buddha Master gives this wonderful example. He said, I once gave the following example. Let's say you are exceptionally intelligent, that you are able to recite a text from memory after reading it once. Let's say that you started to memorize books right after you were born and that you live 100 years. Every year you memorize one book. That means, maybe it was supposed to say every day? Every day you memorize one book. That means you would memorize only 36,000 books in your 100 years. You would memorize just 36,000 books in your 100 years. You would memorize just 36,000 books. Moreover, will you be able to live 100 years? Are you able to memorize one book every day? Are you able to spend the entire day, memorize a book without taking the time to eat? Let's not suppose that you would memorize 36,000 books. Even if you were told to memorize 3,500 books, you would not be able to do it. No one in the world can be found who can do that. No one can memorize even 350 books, not to mention 3,500 books. You can see how pitiful that is. However, could the knowledge in our world be limited to the knowledge contained in only 36,000 books? Have you read all the books in the world? There's so much knowledge that you've not heard or seen. You apply the knowledge you derive from studying 20 or 30 books, or from your ability to memorize 20 or 30 books. You apply that knowledge to evaluate other sciences, other absolute truths, and other holy states that transcend the mundane. For instance, Buddhas are able to come and bestow holy Amrita from the empty sky. When you hear of that, you feel antipathy and declare it as false. When you hear of someone boiling water on their belly who practices tumo, you say it is false. How foolish of you. Hence, you absolutely must not regard the knowledge you have acquired as being the sole truth. Perhaps your knowledge contains evil views, inferior reasoning, confused and erroneous views, or at the very least, foolish opinions. Thus, you may not commit the mistake of being hindered by the known. If you commit the mistake of being hindered by the known, you will descend. The hindrance of the known and the afflictive hindrances are demons preventing cultivators from developing wisdom and liberating themselves from birth and death. They are a wall that encloses worldly people in foolishness, ignorance, pain, and misery. They are a wall that surrounds you, causing you to die inside its confines without ever having seen the truth your entire lifetime. So when we do something simple, like listening to one another, we can begin to observe how hindered we are by the known, how we think we should respond, how long we should wait until we say something, how we know something about ourselves that's like them, so we wish to share that with them. Just that one basic example of being hindered by the known. Lately, I've been asking the question when there's something that I think that I know so well, especially when I'm fearing the future. I'm like, is that true? Is that true? No, I don't know. It becomes a gateway, it becomes a freedom, but we have to allow that to happen. And And we have to be willing to, well, this is actually the renunciation of the mind. So that's the third step in the Dharma of cultivation. Is that renunciation of the mind. We can see that this mind that's impermanent, proliferate with thoughts and knowing, it's not it. And so we begin to renounce this mind. Saying, can I know another way? Can I trust that it won't be awkward? And even if it is that I won't die, we've been holding all of these thoughts, all of these fears about our future, about our lives, about the people that will leave us, about the money that we'll lose. Have we died? No, I've made it this far. Wow. I've made it this far. So there's something my mind doesn't know. It continuously doesn't know, even though it acts like it does. Because something else is happening. And I am in the midst of that other happening all the time. But I can't know that because I think that I know. So we were reading this section in Dharma Study a couple of weeks ago. And it was really cool because Jamie and I have been rehearsing music and writing songs quite a bit using the studio. Maureen will drop in, we'll share something with Dharma Voci. It's been a really lovely experience. We've had some a band member of his come in to do some recording, and we're just working on a lot of music, people in and out all the time. And we're working on this riff and kept going. And then it came through like, oh, I think that I know, but I don't. And it was about this relinquishment of the mind that is claiming this is it. Like, this is what it is. And what decides that is the mind that knows. But is that fully true? And so as we were writing this song, the inevitable, the unfathomable, the ineffable unknown, at the same time, Busita was basically entering into this part of the Dharma too, and wrote something in her journal that was almost like a parallel. It was just so cool. We had no idea that each other was working on it. And so I kind of want us to leave with this today. Can we question, can we challenge the mind that knows, is this fully true? Is this really it? Can this person really not teach me something? Am I already using my conceptual mind to basically, they're wearing that, looks like they might live in that place. I couldn't learn anything from them. We do that. We discern and we judge and we close ourselves off completely. In so many ways. So many ways. So it's in the little things that we can start to explore this unknown. But there has to be a restraining, a putting down and a relinquishing. And when we begin to do that, we will become so amazed at the beauty and the brilliance of what is available in every single thing and every single person. I think I told Lucy and someone this week, I was like, I'm not saving anyone. Everyone is saving me. I was just accosted by the kindness of others. It's everywhere. Oh my gosh. So I want to share, I'm going to pass out, or someone, Giovanni. We pass this to everyone. The top part is Busita's insight into this section of the Dharma. Bodhisattvas rely on prajna paramita and thus their minds have no hindrance.
You have it on your phone to email to me by any chance?
Oh my gosh, I have it on my computer.
Okay.
What if we took a picture?
Yeah.
I might have Drive on here. I have it, Boo.
Okay, great.
So I'll read it aloud so the people online can also hear it and engage with it. Would you like to read the first part? Or Busita, do you want to read?
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds great.
One second, I just want to pull it up one for them. Bodhisattvas rely on prajna paramita, and thus their minds have no hindrance. See right through the words and thoughts. They arise from the ineffable. Abide there, and that is it. It will be different. Will take some time to accustom yourself to the quiet. Don't jump too far ahead to action. That is where you get into trouble. Stay, don't move. Even body sensations are provisional combinations of the four great elements and not all that important. Just let all sensory phenomena arise and perish. The present moment is not what you think. You are seeking the still point, but the still point can't be found. It can only be. Feel the expansion of the heart, opening up to the unconditioned. Yes, never differentiating the unconditioned. Sit with that as a meditation object, never differentiating the unconditioned. The unconditioned is pure love and compassion, not the kind you know, something altogether different. You can't speak of it without reducing it. You continue seeking to move into action. What if you just accepted the urging to stop? To stop until the true signal for action arises. Call on your master, call on your yidam, call on your teacher, and then drop it. Don't meander in your mind about what they are or how they differ. Just the heart's intent and request is enough. Then just be in silence and gratitude, in readiness and listening and receptivity. And it was about stopping the mind.
You can find any section from that and just be with it. Dwell with it. So before we close with our song, be curious. Challenge yourself to, question the things that you think you know. And I loved Busita's thing because I have this impetus to act, to move, because I think that I know that I should be doing something. Like I'm so convinced that that's the right thing to do. But if I didn't know, then that's when true action would arise. So saying I don't know is more wise than saying I do know when you don't. And it doesn't matter what you look like in front of other people, or what people might think of you, or what they might say. Okay, we're gonna sing this song now. You have Ephraim?
I think so.
The poem doesn't stop just because I've set down a pen. The music never halts just because I threw out the pick. And the day is never done just because I say that it is. Keep spinning round, round and round. No matter how many times I just take it down. This life isn't mine, even though I'm living in it. Things I don't own, even though they've been given. The story's not over, even though it seems to have been written. So try not to stake it down with your knowing mind and let the unknown reveal itself to you. May the merit of today's Dharma discussion, contemplation, conversation be for the benefit of our family and our friends, for all those in our neighborhood, and for all those who are seeking a way out. May they know that it is from the mind that it does not think, does not conjure up, does not imprison, but it is the nature that it is and will always remain. And we had 2 glasses.
Thank you, Kedara.
Thank you, Kedara.
I was so excited from this song.
It's a joyful expression of the hindrance of the no.
I think this week was so potent with experience, just like Selma's retreat, that conversation with Lucida, and then this song. It was just, it really felt like,
Full clock.
it just felt like the Dharma came together on its own. It wasn't something, like I really didn't even prepare. Like it's because it's just imbued in our lives, and it was, I don't know, this week was such a blessing. Next week might not be, or it will be, but just in a, I don't know.
Different
Anyways,
way.
I don't want to predict anything, but this, I don't know, that's the hindrance of the known, LOL, thinking.
Now, of course, I'm conscious of nodding as you're speaking.
Yeah, and I'm conscious of rambling when I don't need to.
No, but it is true that with the reaction we get from the people who are listening to us, changes our mind. It may encourage us to go further with something or not, or what have you. It influences who's speaking when the listener reacts a certain way. If the listener sort of, acts in a way that's like, seems to be, put off by something you just said, you might alter what you were gonna say right there on the spot, because now you feel like there's not a receptive audience or something like that. So it's
Isn't that so true? Maureen and I went and played at the nursing home on Monday. And there were some songs where I was like, I had no idea how they felt about it because they were completely unresponsive. Like there was one that was like this, and I just, they're tired, they're, declining in age. And normally you can tell if you're doing good by the response of people. And so I had to really work on that because I was like, it's just an offering, needing nothing in return. And how a response is such a sign of validation. Like, are we doing it for validation? Venerable would be so, really honest about that, because when we were preparing for Bodhi Fest, she's like, doesn't matter the outcome of people. Like, can you offer this offering purely from the true intention of your heart, no matter how it's received, like at all?
So when I facilitated Dharma contemplation, that's one of the things I was trying to express. Right there is, we are not here to approve of or engage or discuss. The contemplation, when it's open for someone to speak, is just that. And wise listening is a crucial part, and to undo and subdue that mind that wants to reinforce or acknowledge or tag on, and simply just let the silence and the stillness of the offering be as it is. That's the space. That's part of the practice.
And to notice that giving that is an act of generosity. Like the mind wanting to respond so quickly is like greed. it's greedy. It wants to consume the space, to consume the time.
And it's the self. If you think about it, it's the self wanting that validation. It builds its own thickness. It grows from that. It's just, the self grows when we feed it that way. Yeah.
That's like its nutriment. It's when you act that way.
There you go.
It's a wonderful way to look at it.
I was,
That might be Kedora's new song.
I was thinking about it, it's like when we talk about the hungry ghost realm, it's like me in that realm, but thinking that I'm full, but I'm actually hungry. So.
You've given us one thing. You've given me one thing. Now I'm going to be aware of how I'm responding to everyone that communicates with me.
Someone gave it.
Well, there's something about, no matter what our gesture is when we're sitting with someone, about really checking in to see if we got what they were saying. And how do we do that in a way that we validate what they actually said to us. So how do we inquire and question in a way to get a better understanding of what someone is conveying without jumping to wherever we jump to in our concepts, because that's all we have. Unless we're concept free, if we're not checking what they're actually saying, we really don't know. And how do we do that in a way that isn't interrogating or, with ease? But it's like, I don't know unless I check with you if I got what you said. And doing that in a way that is, people are heard. It's like,
Like in music, if you had like we're talking about like healthy conversation now and healthy communication, and there's like a harmony to that. If you had music that was like unharmonious, you wouldn't listen to it. But like, how often are we like that, like in our actions with other people? And it's not just like talking and listening. It's like me thinking, okay, like example, I talked to Maureen yesterday and I was like, my family loves the corporate world. That's like, they love it. It brings them so much joy. I don't know. Like, I don't know. They love the corporate community and the benefits that you get from it and the houses and living in Dallas. And I was always like, no. I felt very opposite. Like, give me a little homestead, with like chickens, and let me drive like a 30-year-old car, or something like that, make at-home medicine with herbs. And so I always feel I'm hindered by that known, that's like who they are and that's what they like, because I keep coming to a gap between my relationship with them because I have such this knowing of them, or this knowing of myself. And so it's like listening in a deeper way. Listening in how we're related to each other, or how we're engaged in this world together. Like people are causing war because they're hurt. But can we listen in that way? Or are we responding to that in a negative way? We're not listening. That's like an act of showing that we're not listening. So it goes a lot, I don't know. I'm gonna have to read Avalokiteshvara's part, where she cultivated her ear sense base. There's something to that.
thank you.